I'm Grace Montgomery. I'm 34 years old. I'm a project manager in Seattle. And for most of my life, I believed I was an only child. My parents told me that siblings would have been nice, but they were grateful for the one healthy daughter they had been blessed with. They said it with such warmth, such gratitude, that I never questioned it. I never thought to ask why there were no baby photos of me in the hospital. I never wondered why my mother flinched every time someone mentioned family planning. I never noticed the way my father changed the subject whenever adoption came up in conversation. 3 weeks ago, I found out I had a brother and a sister, not half-siblings from an affair, not distant cousins I had never met. Full biological siblings who had been alive and growing up just hours away from me my entire life. My parents had given them to an orphanage when I was too young to remember, and then raised me as if they had never existed. When I confronted them, when I demanded to know why, my mother looked me in the eye and said, "Because you were the pretty one." That sentence has been sitting in my chest like a stone ever since. Some truths are so ugly they change the shape of your entire life. This is the story of how I found my siblings, how I learned what my parents really were, and how I finally understood that the family I thought I had was built on a lie so cruel I still cannot fully believe it. Hey, where are you watching this from? Does your family have secrets you only discovered as an adult? Growing up in Bellingham, Washington, my childhood looked stable and quiet from the outside. My parents were not wealthy, but they were comfortable. My father worked in insurance. My mother was a part-time receptionist at a dental office. We lived in a modest 2-story house with a backyard, went to church on Sundays, and spent summers camping near the coast. People in our neighborhood liked my parents. They were polite, dependable, the kind of people who brought casseroles to potlucks and volunteered for community cleanups. Inside the house, my relationship with my parents was fine, not warm, but not openly hostile either. My mother was particular about appearance. She cared deeply about how things looked, how the house looked, how I looked, how our family looked to others. She corrected my posture constantly. She made comments about my hair, my skin, my weight, always framed as concern. "You have such a pretty face, Grace. Let's make sure people see it." My father was quieter, more distant. He worked long hours and spent evenings in his office doing paperwork or watching television. He was not cruel, but he was not present either. Love in our house was conditional and performance-based, but I did not realize that until much later. I was a good student, well-behaved, eager to please. I did not cause trouble. I did not ask for much. I learned early that the safest way to exist in my family was to be exactly what they wanted me to be. And because I had nothing to compare it to, I assumed this was normal. I assumed all families operated this way. I assumed that love was something you earned by being easy to manage. What I did not know, what I could not have known, was that my parents had made a choice long before I was old enough to understand it. They had looked at 3 children and decided that 2 of them were not worth keeping. The truth came to me by accident. I was helping my mother clean out the attic after my father's minor heart scare. He was fine, but it had spooked them both enough that they wanted to start organizing their estate, going through old boxes, getting rid of things they no longer needed. I was pulling out a dusty storage bin when I found a manila envelope wedged between 2 boxes of Christmas decorations. It was not labeled. It was sealed with old packing tape that had yellowed with age. Something about it felt wrong. Something about the way it was hidden made my hands hesitate before opening it. Inside were documents, official documents, surrender papers from an orphanage in Tacoma dated 1992. My name was not on them, but 2 other names were: Oliver Montgomery, age 4, Mia Montgomery, age 18 months. My mother's signature was at the bottom. My father's signature was next to hers. I read the documents 3 times before my brain accepted what I was seeing. I had a brother, I had a sister, and my parents had given them away. My mother found me sitting on the attic floor with the papers in my lap. She went very still when she saw what I was holding. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said very calmly, "You were not supposed to find that." Not an apology, not an explanation, just a statement of fact. I asked her why. Why had she kept this from me? Why had she given them away? Why had she raised me as an only child when I had siblings out there somewhere? She sat down on an old wooden chair near the attic window and folded her hands in her lap like she was about to explain something reasonable. She said that when I was born, they already had 2 children. Oliver had been a difficult baby, colicky, demanding, always crying. Mia had been born with a cleft palate that required surgery. My mother said they were overwhelmed. They were struggling financially. They were exhausted. And then I came along. She said I was easy, I was healthy, I was beautiful. People commented on how pretty I was everywhere we went. Strangers stopped her in grocery stores to say I should be in commercials. She said that for the first time, she felt proud to be a mother. Then she said the part that has haunted me ever since. She said that keeping all 3 of us would have been hard. It would have meant less money, less attention, less time to focus on raising me properly. So she and my father made a decision. They kept the one child who had the best chance of making them proud. They kept me. And they gave the other 2 away. I asked her how she could do that, how she could look at her own children and decide they were not worth keeping. She did not flinch. She said, "We gave them a chance at a better life, and we gave you the childhood you deserved. Everyone won." I told her that was not love, that was not parenting, that was selection. She looked at me like I was being dramatic and said, "You turned out fine, didn't you?" I left the attic. I left the house. I sat in my car in their driveway and called my husband, Daniel, and told him everything through tears so heavy I could barely breathe. He told me to come home. He told me we would figure it out. But I did not go home. I drove to the public library, logged onto a computer, and started searching. Finding them was easier than I expected. Oliver had been adopted by a family named Harper when he was 6. I found him on LinkedIn. He was a high school teacher in Spokane, married, 2 kids. His profile picture showed a man with kind eyes and my father's nose. Mia had been adopted by a family named Carter when she was 3. I found her on Facebook. She was a nurse in Portland, single, dog mom. Her smile looked like mine. I did not know how to reach out. What do you say to siblings you did not know existed? How do you explain that your parents kept you and gave them away? I sat with my laptop open for 2 hours before I finally sent Oliver a message. I told him my name. I told him I had found documents. I told him I thought we might be related. He responded within an hour. He said he had always known he had a sister somewhere. The orphanage had told his adoptive parents. He said he had thought about looking for me but did not know if I would want to be found. We met 2 weeks later at a coffee shop in Olympia, halfway between Seattle and Spokane. I saw him walk in, and I knew immediately. Same dark hair, same sharp jawline, same habit of biting the inside of his cheek when he was nervous. We sat across from each other and stared for a long time before either of us spoke. Then he said, "You look like Mom." I told him I was sorry. He asked me what I was sorry for. I said, "For being the one they kept." He told me his story. He remembered being at the orphanage. He remembered crying for our mother and being told she was not coming back. He remembered the confusion, the fear, the feeling of being unwanted. The Harpers had been good to him. They had loved him. They had given him stability and opportunity. But he had spent his entire childhood wondering what he had done wrong, why he had not been enough, why his own parents had chosen to leave him behind. I contacted Mia next. She agreed to meet. The 3 of us sat together in a park in Seattle on a cold afternoon in March. Mia did not remember our biological parents at all. She had been too young, but she remembered the orphanage. She remembered the feeling of waiting. She remembered being moved from room to room, family to family, until the Carters finally adopted her when she was 3. She said she had always felt like something was missing, like there was a part of her story she did not have access to. We compared memories, photographs, documents. We filled in the gaps. We realized that while I had been growing up in a house with 2 parents who doted on me, bought me clothes, sent me to summer camps, and told me I was special, they had been growing up in the system. While I had been worried about prom dresses and college applications, Oliver had been learning how to navigate foster care, and Mia had been wondering why nobody wanted her. I told them I did not know. I told them I had been lied to my entire life. I told them our parents had framed their decision as mercy, as if giving them up had been an act of love. Mia laughed bitterly and said, "They didn't give us up for our sake. They gave us up because we weren't pretty enough to show off." That was when I understood the full weight of what had been done. My parents had not been overwhelmed. They had not been struggling beyond repair. They had been vain. They had wanted a child who made them look good. And when 2 of their children did not meet that standard, they had discarded them. Oliver asked if I had confronted them. I said yes. He asked what they said. I told him. My mother's words. You were the pretty one. Mia looked away. Oliver's jaw tightened. For a long time, none of us spoke. Then Mia said, I want to meet them. I want to hear them say it to my face. We went together. The 3 of us. I called my mother and told her we were coming. She tried to tell me it was not a good time. I told her it was not optional. When we arrived, my father answered the door. He looked at Oliver and Mia, and his face went completely pale. He tried to close the door. Oliver put his hand on it and said, We're coming in. My mother was sitting in the living room. She looked at us like we were strangers who had walked into the wrong house. I introduced them. Mom, Dad, this is Oliver. This is Mia, your children. My father sat down heavily. My mother's face stayed blank. Mia spoke first. She said, I want to know why you gave us away. My mother said, It was a long time ago. Mia said, That's not an answer. Oliver asked if they had ever thought about them, if they had ever wondered what happened to the children they abandoned. My father said they had done what they thought was best. Oliver said, Best for who? My father did not answer. I asked them if they regretted it. My mother looked at me and said, We did what we had to do to give you the life you deserved. That was when I realized they were never going to apologize. They were never going to admit that what they did was wrong. They had spent 30 years convincing themselves that their choice had been noble, that they had been good parents to me and merciful parents to Oliver and Mia. They had rewritten the story so many times in their own heads that they believed it. Mia stood up. She said, You didn't give us a better life. You threw us away because we weren't good enough for you. My mother started to speak. Mia cut her off. I don't need to hear it. I came here to see if you were human. You're not. You're just 2 people who thought kids were accessories. She walked out. Oliver followed her. I stayed for 1 more minute. I looked at my parents and said, I'm never coming back. My mother said, Grace, don't be dramatic. I said, You chose me because I was pretty. You gave them away because they weren't. That's not love. That's vanity. And I'm done pretending you're good people. I left. I have not spoken to them since. In the months that followed, Oliver, Mia, and I built a relationship that should have existed our entire lives. We met for dinners. We texted constantly. We shared stories, photos, memories. We filled in the gaps. Mia came to Seattle for Thanksgiving. Oliver invited us to his kid's birthday party. We became what we should have been from the start. Family. Daniel supported me through all of it. He sat with me on nights when I cried out of anger. He listened when I needed to talk. He reminded me that I was not responsible for my parents' choices. My adoptive siblings-in-law, Oliver's wife, and Mia's close friends welcomed me. They did not treat me like the lucky one. They treated me like someone who had also been lied to. My parents tried to contact me. Letters, emails, voicemails. My mother said I was being unfair. She said she had given me everything. She said I owed her. I blocked them. I told them through a lawyer that I wanted no further contact. They did not understand. They still do not understand. To them, I am the ungrateful daughter who turned her back on the people who raised her. To me, they are the people who taught me that love is conditional and children are disposable. If there is any lesson in this, it is that the family you are born into does not define your worth. Oliver and Mia were not less valuable because our parents decided they were. I was not more deserving because I fit their image. We were all just children who needed love. And the fact that our parents could not see that says everything about them and nothing about us. Real family does not rank children. Real family does not discard the ones who are inconvenient. Real family does not hinge love on appearance. And once you understand that, you can walk away from the people who failed you and build something better with the people who see you as you are. I'm grateful I found my siblings. I'm grateful they let me into their lives. I am grateful that despite everything, we are building something our parents tried to erase. And I am grateful that I finally know the truth, even though it broke something in me to learn it. Before I go, I want to ask you something. If you found out your parents had given away your siblings, would you confront them? Type yes if you would. Type no if you wouldn't. Type complicated if you're still thinking about it. Where are you watching from? Did you make it to the end? If this story made you think, please like this video and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps stories like this reach people who need to hear that they are not alone. Thank you for listening.